Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me and see me? Okay. Okay, good, good. Well, just in case you forgot, I don't know how you could, but my name is Carrie, and I am the nurse and a health coach with the wellness department at St. Alphonsus. And today we are going to be talking about some fun stuff. Um, we're going to be talking about triggers, how to cope with them. We're also going to talk about having self-compassion and the importance of social connections. But before we get started, I just want to kind of do a little review about what you guys discussed last time. I believe that you discussed stress, and you talked about identifying stressful life events, and then talked about strategies in coping with those stress. So with thinking about that, did anybody make any changes since the last class that they like to share?
Something that I decided to try was just like scheduling downtime into my week because a lot of times things will kind of get away from me, and then by the end of the week I'm fried. So I just put it on my calendar kind of in advance to try to not plan myself, not overcommit myself as much.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Having kind of that set schedule and allowing time for ourselves and scheduling things, and saying, okay, it's on my calendar and I am going to do A, B, and C. So yeah, good. Lindy?
Mine is actually similar to Katie's, and I took the teaching position in January in the middle of the year, so everything's kind of been a little bit overwhelming, and so I decided I'm going to take different tasks, and like for example, my contact logs. On Tuesday, I'm going to update my contact logs. On Wednesday, I'm going to do my data entry and things like that. So I break it down throughout the week, so I'm not cramming everything onto my weekend.
Good, yeah, because
Basically,
that weekend's kind of your time too, and you want to be able to have that downtime and be able to have time for yourself, because that kind of gives us that time to regenerate and just kind of, okay, I'm going to reset myself before the week starts. So yeah,
exactly.
um, yeah, and Elizabeth, writing things down on your calendar and agenda, yeah, it seems like a lot of people put it in their planner or put it in their agenda or their calendar to schedule in things that they need it to schedule in. Good. Does anybody have any questions from last time before we get started? Okay, good. If you have any questions throughout, just let me know. Um, But again, we're going to talk about triggers and how to manage and cope with them. And so let's get started. So you're probably wondering, well, Carrie, what's a trigger? You're saying trigger, trigger, trigger. What does that mean? Well, triggers are things in our life that react to in a certain way without even thinking about it. So triggers can be sight, they can be smell, they can be a sound or a feeling that we react to in a certain way, even without knowing. For instance, when you touch something, it's really hot, so we pull away and we move our hand. So those are helpful triggers, but triggers can also be harmful. And these include triggers that keep you from reaching your health goals. They are things that encourage our brain to revert to old ways of doing things. And so they can prevent us from eating healthy, being active, following our stress plan, and also can prevent us from getting the sleep that we need. A trigger has three parts. It has the cue, the routine, and a reward. And so when I talk about cue, that is what sparks and sets off the action. So for an example, going to a barbecue, the cue is that you want to eat all the food. A place, if you go to the movies, you got to have the popcorn. A person. So maybe you go visit your best friend, and every time you get together, you have wine together. Or it can be an emotion, such as you do X when you're sad, lonely, or mad. So the next part of a trigger is the action you take because of the cue. So, for example, buying that popcorn because you're at the movies. Who can go to a movie without popcorn, right? Or it could be having that glass of wine because you're with your friends. And then the last piece is the reward. It's that satisfaction you get from that routine. So it could be that feeling of nostalgic every time you have that popcorn, or the joy you get from being with your friend. So I'm going to read a little story here about Marta, and we'll discuss what triggers Marta and what she can do. So let me read this to you. Marta just learned that she's at risk for type 2 diabetes. So she needs to change her eating and fitness habits. On a typical workday, Marta gets up at 5:30 in the morning. As soon as she enters the kitchen, she starts making coffee. Just the smell helps her wake up. Then she warms up a pastry to dunk in her coffee. And by 3 in the afternoon, she's getting drowsy again. So she stops off at a coffee machine in the staff lounge. And then at the vending machine, she buys herself another pastry to dunk in her coffee. Later that evening, Marta needs to unwind after a stressful day. So she curls up on the couch and watches TV. During one of the commercial breaks, she grabs a bag of chips and a beer. Now, reminder, this is what she does almost every day, work day. So what are some things that you think in Marta's life that trigger her to act in unhealthy ways?
Well, the drowsiness in the afternoon
Mm-hmm.
being replaced with coffee and carbs when she
Right.
could go like outside and get some fresh air.
Good. Exactly. Exactly. When I think of a trigger, it's kind of like a trickle down effect, right? So she's sleepy, which an event she needs the coffee, which then when she has the coffee, she has to have her pastry. So it's kind of that trickle down effect. So yeah, good. Anything else?
Just like that feeling of needing to unwind and having something to kind of help you do that or entertain you to do that.
So she wants to lie on the couch when she wants to unwind, and when she's unwinding, she's having chips and she's having beer. And reality, she could do something being active or proactive. Good. How about a vending machine? Every time she sees a vending machine, she has to have a snack, even if she's not hungry. So those are all triggers. Those are things that prevent us from living a healthy life, and they can be challenging. So I want to try something different here. I'm going to try using the whiteboard on Teams. This may not work, but I want to try it because I think it's a good idea, because what I want to do is I want us to, or for you guys to share some of the triggers that you have. So let me get this rolling really quick here. It takes a second to download, but I really like using it. Maybe it will download. If not, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. So I know while this is loading up, I know one of the triggers for me, like Marta, or what we talked about was, every time we go over to our friend's house, we go for Thursday dinner, and there's always a glass of wine involved, right? So it's kind of that going to a friend's house, you have that glass of wine, even though you shouldn't be having that glass of wine, and then our friend always cooks unhealthy, so you always know you're going to get something very unhealthy when you go to eat. So what are some things that trigger you? I'm going to put my friend's house and wine. Who else would like to share?
Well, once a month, my friend and I, and sometimes her kids or my kids, all get together and we have sushi Saturday. So we
Okay.
enjoy just conversating and catching up on each other and what's coming up in our lives, and being sounding boards for each other. And we do that over a lunch of sushi, which
Okay.
is both of our favorite foods. So
Yeah.
I don't know
Which
if that's
isn't,
really healthy or not, but
yeah, Yeah, I think it just depends on like what kind of sushi you're having, because they have like the deep fried sushi, and making those choices that I think, you guys have talked about eating out, and what kind of choices to make. The other important aspect of that is when we think about like our friends, we're going to talk a little bit about social connection. It's that social connection that's important as well, but it's what we do during that event that can be unhealthy for sure. um Anything else? What else? I know another one for me is I was brought up that you always have a dessert after you eat dinner. So I try not to carry that on into my adult life, but it is a trigger. You have dinner and then right afterwards you have a dessert. Did I spell that right? I can't spell. You'll find that out. That might be right. Okay. Would anybody else like to share? Sitting on the couch and watching TV. Okay. Great. That's a good one. That I think a lot of us do that. And when you're sitting on the couch, you're munching. So yeah, that's a good one. Um, Grading essays and working on report cards. You eat snacks. So yeah, grading and eating snacks. Oh my goodness. A drink after work to unwind. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I think a lot of us do that. That's some good. Anything else? I know for me, when I first started my job, I was a floor nurse, and then I went into an office job, and I felt like I needed to eat at my desk rather than taking a lunch break. So um, every time I sat at my desk, I felt like I needed to be munching on something, kind of like that TV aspect of things. So that was one of my big ones. Anything else? Okay, well, I'm here to give you a little bit of some strategies to kind of put in your tool belt here. And so we're going to talk about ways to stay away from those triggers. Sometimes, we say out of sight, out of mind, and sometimes this can be easy just to put something out of sight, but sometimes it can't be. So what I mean is, for example, you drive a different route at home so that you don't go past that Krispy Kreme donut shop, right? So every time you see that Krispy Kreme, it's like, I got to go get a donut. Well, that's your route home. So sometimes staying away from that or re-driving a different route so it's out of sight. I know that sometimes isn't realistic. So there are other ways to brainstorm options that can make you make those small steps in the right direction. So let's do that right now. Let's talk about some ways that we can help with these triggers. Uh, Something that doesn't feed into something else that feeds in to the emotion that can be healthy. So I wrote all these down. So let's talk a little bit about these and what you could do instead. So for me, I had said about we go to the friend's house and we drink wine. So for me, it was actually everybody had that cup in their hand. And so I felt like that I always needed to drink wine during that time. So instead, I replaced it with water. And everybody kind of laughed at me, but it was a way that I didn't drink water. So one of my coping mechanism was, instead of having that wine, I put water in my cup, and I still could socialize. I still had that cup in my hand, and I still felt like I was like with everybody else and doing what everybody else was doing. So that's kind of what helped me with that wine drinking. And it's not to say I can't do it, but we're doing this every Thursday, right? We're eating out, or we're going there, we're having food every Thursday, and that's not realistic to have unhealthy meal and wine every single time. Katie?
I was just gonna say we can't see the whiteboard.
Oh
It
no. Oh,
says the organization only allows members to participate. Sorry.
well, that's okay. Let me see. Well, you know what? We can just talk about them. I have them on here, so we'll just look at each one and we can talk about it. Darn it! I was hoping that would work. So I think Lindy said about sushi on Saturdays. So Lindy, what are some other options you think that you could do when you meet with your friend instead of having that sushi?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
um, we've tried like when we get together, sometimes we'll go to her house, but we don't have like any food to eat. But we like it's the only time that we have sushi because our
Mhm.
husbands don't like the smell of
Yeah.
fish. They don't like seafood at all. So it's
Yeah.
something that we can enjoy together.
Right.
And um, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I
Well,
don't drink with it. I just have like an iced
yeah.
tea, and she has a Diet Coke, but that's her. That's not me. Um,
Right.
and I can't like I don't drink when I'm out other than the iced tea. So
Okay. So maybe
I don't
it's
know.
not so much a trigger. Maybe it's just something, that may not be unhealthy to you
Right. I think
or
if it's a
prevents you.
trigger for me, it's more of I have to be very conscientious of the amount,
Okay.
like the portion
Okay.
control.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Which can be big for some people. So maybe not so
Hmm.
much avoiding the sushi, but rather than limiting how much you can eat at that one time. Because some sushi places are all you can eat and you just have them keep bringing and bringing until you're so full that you feel sick. Good, good. I put dessert after dinner. One of the things that I've done is I put a bowl of grapes in my fridge. And so instead of reaching for, something unhealthy, I can just grab a handful of grapes and they're sweet and they kind of satisfy that, that craving of that sweetness and it's, something to eat. So for me, it's that. Somebody, I think Elizabeth said, sitting on the couch watching TV and munching on snacks. Um, yeah, that's a good idea. Strawberries, Lindy. Yeah. Yeah. I just always have grapes. I have strawberries too, but grapes are always kind of my go-to for sure. Um, okay. Elizabeth said, sitting on the couch watching TV and munching on snacks. What are some things that you could do differently, or does anybody have some suggestions for her?
I think it depends on what you're snacking on.
True.
If you have healthy snacks or can
Okay.
replace it with something healthy that you like to eat, then that could be good.
Yeah, so instead of it munching on chips or things like that, munching on something like carrot sticks or something healthier so that you're not getting all those calories and all that those empty calories. Good. Yeah.
Something
Eating
that
fruit. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say something that I did to try to help myself with that I need to get back into is I started crocheting when I sat on the couch instead so that my hands were busy, but I wasn't maybe snacking if I wasn't hungry.
Right, right. So basically just moving, having that crocheting so that your hands are moving, you're not picking at things. I will have to say though, I crochet as well, and I have an Apple Watch and it does count each crochet stitch as a step. So you may be getting more steps than what you think. One day I was like, oh my gosh, how did I get 10,000 steps in? I know I didn't get 10,000 steps in. And then I started crocheting more and I was like, yeah, that's it. So, but you're keeping your hands busy. So yeah, eating fruit, is good, like munching on some fruit and like we said, some, healthy snacks. So she said she eats trail mix and chocolate. So, I mean, I guess you could uh, pick a better trail mix. Like if there's a lot of healthier trail mix options, And again, we talked about portion control with the sushi. It's the same thing with the trail mix. You want to make sure that you're portioning out and not having the whole bag, because that might be something you guys talked about where, you take a whole bag and you sit on the couch, and before you know it, it's all gone or halfway gone, and you don't realize how much you're snacking and how much you've eaten. So, portion them out in a little size snack bag so that, you can see what you're eating, or put it in a small bowl so that you can see what you're eating. So good. I think it was Katie that said to drink after work to unwind. So have a drink after work to unwind. What are some other things that you think you could do instead?
Something that I've tried recently is either just, having like a seltzer water or like a non-alcoholic beer, because they're a lot lower in calorie, but also kind of, have that the bubbles and so anyway.
Yeah. So do you think so thinking about, how to unwind, you guys talked about stress and coping mechanisms with stress. And so it seems like that drink helps you to unwind. What are some other things you think you could do instead of having that drink to help you unwind?
One of the issues for me is it's a blessing but also a curse. I have a very, very short commute. And so I've started walking to work again, which is really helpful because that helps me unwind and gives me a little more time to transition between work and home, so that when I'm, walking through the door, I'm not still, kind of in that space. So that's helped.
That's good.
So now
That's a
that
good.
now that the weather's nice again, ish.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the suggestions that I was going to say is, exercising or walking, or, yeah, we're still moving, right? We're not really unwinding and relaxing, but it's getting your endorphins going. It's getting those chemicals in your brain, just like exercising, to kind of help you calm down for the day. So good. Um, Mine was eating at the desk. Does anybody else eat at the desk, or, drink coffee at the desk or anything like that? Hmm. Yeah. So for me, it was, earlier we talked about scheduling things in. So what I started doing was scheduling in my lunch breaks so that I can take that time to walk away, go to the break room, have something to eat, or go take a walk and munch on something while I'm walking. And so that way I'm not eating at my desk. Because that routine of doing that over and over, every time you sit at your desk or every time you sit in front of the TV, your mind is telling you you have to have that, right? It's that trigger. It's telling you you need to have that snack. You need to eat at your desk. So breaking that habit, it's hard to do, but changing it up will help so that you can cope with those triggers. Good. Lindy, yep, you're working too at your desk. Yeah, yeah. Grading and eating snacks. So grading and then eating snacks while you're grading papers is a trigger. Tell me why and what you could do differently. Well, we talked a little bit about um, different options, right? Making sure that you're having something healthy instead. Um, and trying to, again, that out of sight, out of mind is kind of hard. Let's see, it's a lot to grade, but it can be stressful. Yeah. So one of the things, sorry, I'm trying to get this whiteboard off of our thing, and it's not letting me. Oh, hold on, I'm so sorry, give me just a second. Oh, sorry. See, that's what I get for trying something new, and it's doesn't want to get me out of there. Um, it can be stressful. So one of the things when we talk about stress and um, is productivity, right? And so when we talk about stressful events, taking a little break and walking away. So anytime that you maybe feel like you have to have that snack, maybe it's time for you to take a break. Maybe it's time for you to walk away for just a couple minutes, walk around the house, take some steps, in place. If you're at school, walking around the classroom, just to kind of give your mind a second to relax before you go back. And they have found that people who do take those small little breaks are more productive than people who don't. So I know we always feel crammed to we got to get it done, we got to get it done, we got to get it done. But studies have shown that if you take that break, you're more productive than the person that doesn't, because our mind is just kind of stuck at one thing. So for instance, when you're grading and you feel stressful, or even setting a time limit, like, I'm not a teacher, so I don't know how long it takes to grade papers or anything, or how stressful, but, setting a time, like after so many minutes or after an hour of grading, I'm going to take a 5-minute break for myself. I'm going to come back and continue doing it. So that way you're kind of breaking that habit of snacking while you're grading papers. Anything else? Okay, well, let's go back to Marta, right? So we're going to talk about how she coped with her triggers. So, oh, you're welcome. Marta decides to cope with the triggers. These days, she gets more sleep, so she doesn't get drowsy during the day. She still has her morning and afternoon coffee, but instead of having a pastry for breakfast, she has some plain non-fat yogurt with berries. And Marta stays away from the vending machines at work. Instead, she nibbles on baby carrots. Marta still watches TV to unwind after a stressful day, but she rides a stationary bike or lifts weights while she's watching TV. And now she has cut up veggies for her evening snacks instead of chips and beer. So all of those good suggestions that, we all said about how to cope with those triggers. So it's one thing just to keep working on it. It's a mindset. And so with that being said, we are going to shift a little bit and talk about mindset. Mindset can play a significant role in determining your life outcomes. So by understanding, adapting, and shifting your mindset, you can improve your health, you can decrease your stress, and you can become more resilient to life's challenges. So we discuss mindset here because triggers can be challenging, but if you have the right mindset, you can overcome those challenges. Our experiences determine our responses to challenges and opportunity. So now I'm not saying that it's not okay to have negative thoughts, but if you do, you should find a safe place or person that you could share those emotions with. So there are several ways which can help you achieve a good mindset. One way is through mindful meditation, which we did in week 7 together. Mindfulness can help individuals to become more aware of their thoughts and their patterns and emotions. Repeating positive affirmation can reinforce a positive mindset and boost self-confidence. And so seeking support from others by engaging in conversations and supportive individuals can give you valuable insight and encouragement. So we talk about positive affirmation. It's something we should be practicing to help with our mindset. It helps disrupt negative thinking patterns and habits, and eventually positive thought patterns appear because of the new learned skill. So positive affirmations begin with straightforward statements, such as I am loved, or I let go. And sometimes we need to challenge those negative thoughts with positive phrases or statements. So instead of saying, why not? You can say, oh, that sounds good. Or I have no power to control my happiness. And instead saying, I have all the power to control my happiness. So I want you to turn to your page 98 in your handouts. It should say, write it out, positive self-talk. So I want you to look at the first column. So there's 2 separate boxes. We're just looking at that, write it out, positive self-talk. So I want you to think about some negative thoughts you have now or that you've had in the past. And then I want you to rephrase those. For example, you might be thinking, I can't do it. And now I want you to rephrase it to something like, I can do it. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to write those negative thoughts down and then rephrase them into a positive thought. And if you have questions while you're doing it, speak up. But I'm going to give you a few minutes just to complete that top portion there. Does anybody need a little bit more time, or are we good to go ahead and move on? So would anybody like to share one of their negative thoughts and how you changed it to a positive one? I like the example that this isn't working the way I want it, so I might as well give up. And instead, things don't always work the first time. Keep trying. Yes, Lindy?
Well, this is one that I had today. I when I took the position, I didn't realize that I had been assigned a training, and then I found out about it like at the end of January, and then I forgot to do the training. So my boss got a nasty memo saying, "Hey, they need to finish their training," and I felt really bad because I internalize things, and I'm like, "Ah, I dropped the ball. I should never have dropped the ball," and then I beat myself up for like a day, and then my boss was talking to me at the end, and it's like, she goes, out of all the millions of balls that you're juggling right now, you dropped one, just one. And I was like, yeah, but it's all right. I picked it back up. So
Mm-hmm.
I got my
Mm-hmm.
task done, and I feel better. So
Good.
it's okay to drop a ball as long as you pick it back up.
Exactly. And we all make mistakes and we're not all perfect. So, things happen and, we just kind of have to pick ourselves back up and say, let's keep moving and put it in the back of my mind and say, this isn't going to happen again because I had this experience. And so, but I am doing great because, I did accomplish A, B, and C instead today, right?
Yeah. The other one that I had is like, pretty much exactly like what Liz put in the chat. This is too much work. And then I can do a little bit at a time. I
Mm-hmm.
can do baby steps, one step at a time. So
Exactly. Okay, let's see. I had my formal evaluation with my principal yesterday. I had some negative thoughts. I can't do this. And she changed it to I am capable of doing this. Great. Yes, Elizabeth, that's exactly what we have to do is just shifting that mindset to a positive, because if we're always having those negative thoughts, it's just going to bring us down, and we're just going to kind of go in that hole and just keep going down hills from there. So yeah. Good, good. Anything else? Okay. Well, keep practicing those positive self-talks with yourself whenever you encounter a negative thought, trying to make it into a positive one, and keep practicing, and eventually it will just become, second nature to you. But I want to dive deep. I want to dive into we did mindset. Now I want to talk about social connections. Social connections are important for several reasons. They can negatively impact several aspects of our emotional and physical well-being. And evidence has shown that those who feel socially isolated have increased hospitalizations and have higher medical costs. And so social isolation social isolation predicts a greater risk of certain diseases such as stroke, diabetes, coronary heart disease, and upper respiratory illness. And those who feel isolated have issues with sleep and being physically active and are more likely to smoke. So feeling isolated can get in the way of you making healthy choices. Now, these social connections can be micro moments, such as running into a friend at the grocery store or even a quick phone call. But there can be a catch. Those social connections must be with someone who can share positively and have mutual care and concerns like you do. In other words, the relationship must generate a positive social, emotional, and physical well-being. This person should be authentic. It should be your safe place, and it should be a safe place where you can share things. Remember when you guys did those value statements? Well, your relationship should align and fulfill you, and should align with that same value of those people that are close to you. Those individuals should be those who identify with you and are non-judgmental. So I want you to think about those relationships in life. Who would those individuals be in your life that bring you joy, that's your safe place and non-judgmental? So back on that page 98 on the bottom, I want you to list those individuals who provide that support to you. And I'll just give you a couple minutes to do that. Does anybody need more time to list those relationships? Okay. So I know a lot of us feel like we make those social connections through social media, and I want to bring that up a little bit. Social media can be a good source. They can give us support groups, or they can help us connect with old friends. But social media can also make us feel isolated or even change our mindset in a negative direction. So overuse of social media can lead to isolation or depression. So there was a study conducted in 2017 with young adults from the age of 19 to 32, and they found those with higher social media use were 3 times more likely to feel socially isolated. So I think that's kind of crazy because, we think of being on social media and having those social connections, but not always good. So my tip to you is to use social media wisely. So unfollow those toxic accounts or disturbing events which can lead you upset or frustrated. Unfollow those who make you feel upset, that make you feel like you're not good enough. Unfollow those people who seem like they have the perfect life. If something is making you feel less confident or questioning what's wrong with me, you have control to unfollow them. Instead, follow people who bring you joy, follow people who are inspiring, maybe who aren't so perfect, but still love them. They love themselves. Negative input can make you feel more negative, and even if you don't realize it. So how many times have you had a coworker have a negative attitude and you run into them, and it kind of brings you down as well? So that's kind of what that social media can do for other people. So I want to ask this question. I want to ask, what are some ways that you can meet new people without, other than social media? Does anybody have any suggestions? I know for some people, they can meet new people going to a gym or finding like a club. I know Liz does like a running club. When she moved here from Alaska, she didn't know very many people, so she joined a running club. So that was a way those people shared the same values as her, and it made her and gave her joy. Lindy, I think you might have been trying to say something.
Yeah, I was just fixing to say, just even like walking around your neighborhood, you can chat with your neighbors, or like if you're at the park, there's a lot of people like in our neighborhood, there's a lot of people that walk their dogs over to the park and hang out there and let their kids play or whatever. So you can
Yeah,
just meet your neighbors.
yeah. Just meeting those people in your neighborhood. Yeah,
Yep.
that's good.
And the other idea just
Mm.
popped into my head was the library.
Oh,
There's always
yeah.
people there.
Yeah, there is. You're right about that. And sometimes there's even like, I don't have young kids, but for those that have younger kids, there's a lot of like mommy and me's, or there's a lot of like at the library they have like the reading clubs and things like that. So um, those are all good ways. Let's see, the community education classes. Yeah, I know Fort Boise has a ton of classes that people can take. And it's people that enjoy the same things as you. So um, it helps with those values and helps you meet, positive people. So local clubs, yeah, Katie said local clubs, and taking a class, like I said, will always help. The other thing is volunteering. There are a lot of volunteer opportunities out there. So volunteering, again, we're looking at people who share the same values. So those people who are volunteering at, I don't know, the pet shelter, maybe they have, the value of, helping animals, and they're caring. And so, finding something that shares those values. Good. Anything else? Okay, good. So I hope that, this discussion on triggers um, will help you to manage those and cope with those a little bit better. So what I want you to do is I want you to create a SMART goal. So on that page 99, I want you to create a SMART goal for the week. Remembering that it's, specific, it's measurable, attainable, realistic, and that there's a time frame on there. So go ahead and take a few minutes. I'll give you about 3 minutes, and then we'll finish wrapping up to make that SMART goal. Let me know if you have any questions when you're making it. Okay, so if you haven't finished your goal, when we're done, go ahead and finish that up. Make sure you look at your goal and, oh, Lindy, I will eat lunch away from my desk and with my peers 4 out of 5 days each week. That's a great goal. That is a great goal. That tells you what you're doing. There is a time frame on it. It's realistic. And remember, if you don't meet your goal, you can always change that goal and backstep a little bit because you want to be successful. So very good. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. So, if you need more time, when we're done, go ahead and finish up your goal. But does anybody have any questions for me about anything that's been covered or anything we covered today? Okay, well, guess what? You guys are almost done. Next week is week 9, and it's the last week. So Candy is going to be with you, and it's going to be a wrap-up week. So we're going to talk about positive changes that you've made, how you've implemented them. She's going to give you some time to reflect and discuss tips for long-term success, because we can make these short-term goals, we can make these short-term wins, but we need to be able to sustain that. And so she's going to talk a little bit about that. And so what I recommend is in week 1, I think you did your values, you did the wheel, any of those forms that you filled out, bring with you for week 9, because you're going to reassess those. And so it's a really good time to kind of reflect over the last 9 weeks and determine what you're going to do from here on out. Any questions before I let you guys go? Okay, well, it was my pleasure. Thank you guys for attending, and it was fun. And if you do have anything, you can contact us and we can help you out in any way. Okay, if you're late, Lindy, it's okay. I will just let Candy know that you might be a little late and just join when you can. And like I said, bring those forms with you. So thank
Gotcha.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys, and enjoy your rest of your evening, and make sure you eat carrots instead of chips at watching TV tonight. Bye, everybody.